Welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to use the drag and drop creator that social Wi-Fi have most effectively. You will be able to use this editor to update your Wi-Fi login pages, create the emails that you can send out through social Wi-Fi, and the principles are the same whichever pages you want to update. In this video though, we're going to focus specifically on the Wi-Fi login pages, and we'll do a separate video on the email editor because there are a few different quirks to each one. So for this one, let's stick to the Wi-Fi login pages and look out for the other video if you're looking for something specific to editing your emails. Now, you can edit pages by going in on a venue level. And what you need to do is go into your venue, find splash pages on the left hand side, and then you've got the 4 types of pages that you can edit. Now, not all pages have the same options. So for example, I will show you this, but the pre-login page, you can add a YouTube widget, for example, but you can't add that on the agreements page. So let's just quickly dip into the login page and see what we have set up right now. A very nice looking Wi-Fi login screen. Hopefully you will agree on that. But what I'll do is I'll show you how you can get something to look something like this. So I'm going to add a new page here. And I'm going to remove as much as I can here. So let's get rid of that picture. And I just have a blank background. So how do I take this and make it look like what we saw just a moment ago? First thing to look at really is at the top here we have something that says show components. If we tick that box, you'll see some grid lines appear on the page. And these are important because these are going to guide you in terms of where you want to drop content. Now, first of all, let's get that background image back in there. So you'll see here, there's a central column. You can see the blue line just denoting that. If you click outside of that, to the left here or to the right, you get some additional options on the right hand side. And we have these options that we can add some color to this if we want. We can put a gradient on there, just pick 2 colors, and you can create something that looks like this. You can change the directions of these gradients. But I want to add a background image, and you can see we have the option here for background image. And I can pick something that's already been uploaded to the system, or I can drag and drop new files in here and upload them. You do need those files to be less than 600 kilobytes, so do compress them. That's always a good idea, and make sure you're within that size requirement. But I've got a few images here. I think this was the one that we saw on the other page. I just double click it and we're good. You see that it's kept the overlay on top from before. So I can keep that, I can adjust it, I can have a single color overlay. If I want to darken this, for example, I can just play around with that. But if I tick this one at the top, it just has the image as it's been input. You also have a number of other options down here. So you can, I would never really play with the background repeat, but you can adjust the positioning. So if I select center, the point is when we go to different device sizes, the center on a horizontal and a vertical axis is where it's going to focus in on. I think if I choose, let's take left center, and I adjusted it, you see it's focused on the left hand side of the photo, and likewise on the right hand side, if I select right center, it focuses there. So good to play around with that and get the previews on different device types in order for you to get the login page looking how you want it on different types of devices. So let's start adding a few more things here. I'm going to put those grid lines back on. Wherever you click on this page, you're going to get more options on the right hand side. So you've already seen that here with the background image. But what about if I want to add some extra things in the middle now? We look back on the right hand side, we find this open blocks button at the top, and we have table rows, elements, and login widgets. What we want to do is we want to take table rows, and then we want to put an element inside the blocks of those rows. So what do I mean by that? Let's add 3 cells on a table row and drag that in. You'll see here now that we have a row and we have 3 columns in there that we can add content to. So let's add an image into this middle one. I just drag and drop it where I want it to be within that block. And I've got the image selector again. We've already looked at this, and I can select something that's already there, double click it, and it's added it within there. If that's a bit too small, you could add it into a single cell. Drag the image across again, double click there. And now we're probably thinking, okay, well, that's a little bit too big. What I can do is I can select that image, and as I said, you get more options on the right-hand side of the page. And I could adjust that width to 50%, let's say. And if you want to put a radius on any of your images, you can. The radius is curving the edges. I'll explain that a bit more when we look at the login buttons later on. So I'm going to leave that like that for now. But I want to add some padding to the top of this page. I feel that logo is a bit too close to the top. The way that I can do that is I can just drag it in a block. So I could take this 1 cell block, add it at the top there, and it's created a bit of padding at the top of the page. If you want that to be more or less, you can select that block. Again, we get some new options on the right hand side, and I can adjust this minimum height. So it's defaulted to 64, but if I make that 20, it just tightens it up a little bit there at the top. So play around with those numbers and just get your spacings how you want them to be. So that's how you can add images into these login pages. Now let's add some text. So we want to go back to this plus icon in the middle, and we want to add a text element now. So the way that I would recommend doing that is take the 1 cell block again, take the text block, drag that in, and now it's putting a text element here. So let's add something here. Welcome to Luxury Hotel Santorini. And again, you'll see on the right hand side we have more options specific to the text box. So if I want to update the font, I can. If I want to make it bigger, I can either type in a number here, or if I just hover over these arrows, I get some arrows. If I click and drag up and down, the text gets bigger and smaller, which is very handy. So I'll just leave that there like that. I can play with things like increasing the letter spacing. I can change the font color. Again, I could paste in a hex code here, for example. White works absolutely fine here. I can adjust the line height. I could add some shadow if I want it just to stand out a bit more in the background. But importantly, I can change the alignment, which is what I'm going to do here. And I'm also going to just make that a little bit bigger. Once again, I'm just going to add some padding because in this case, I think the text is a bit too close to the logo. So I'm just going to drag across 1 cell and put it in the gap there. And I'll click on that block again. And I'm just going to adjust that height to 20, I think, and just give it a little bit of padding. So once again, just to emphasize the point, if you click on any element here, you're going to get more options on the right-hand side. Okay, so we're looking okay so far. Now let's add some login buttons for people to be able to log in with. I'm going to go back to the plus icon on the right-hand side, and we can close this elements box now because we're not adding text, image, or a YouTube widget. What we want is the login widgets. So there's a few ways to do this. One of the ones that is very interesting to people is the login bundle, and I'll tackle this one first. You can actually just take this bundle and drag it straight in without adding the cell, but I'll add 1 cell here just to be consistent, and then take the login bundle, and it's added all of the login options. If I click on any of these login buttons, you see once again I get more options on the right hand side, and I can turn on and off the login options that I want or that I don't want. So if I want Facebook login but I don't want LinkedIn, You just click them on and off there as we go. We can do lots of things here. So if I hover over the text icon within the block, you can see here that I can change the font color, but I can also change the background color as well, and the border radius. So I spoke about the border radius earlier. So by default it's 5, it's quite a square edge to that. But if I change this Google one to, let's say 30, it turns it into quite a circular icon. So you can see the difference there between the Google and the other ones. And I can go through these individually and I could make them all look the same. I could have different colors for different login options. It's entirely up to you how these look. And what I can also do is, so I'm just going to put LinkedIn back on there as well, just to get everything in the game. This option on the right hand side is the email form option. So people just submit their email address, and you can preview what that looks like by ticking this form preview box here on the right. And you can see now what it's going to look like. The box that you need to put your email address in. We give an example error message here as well. If I click on that, I can change the font color, the size. See, I've got some new options here on the typography section. If I select the connect button, once again, I've got some more options here as well. So I could adjust the border radius of that too. What you can also do is add more options too for what data you want to collect. So I can turn on and off more fields as per my preference, and you can add first name, last name, date of birth and gender of those people that you want to fill in this data. I turn off that preview and we're back to how the page will look like. So this form preview is what will happen when somebody clicks that email icon. This will appear and they fill in that section. So that's how you can edit the login bundle. By the way, if you select any elements, you get some options here. You can drag them around, but there's also a bin here on the right hand side. You click that, you remove whatever's there. And if you make any mistakes, you have the undo and the redo button at the top right here. So not a disaster if you make any issues. We also have the login buttons in other formats as well. So let's just grab the Facebook one and show you what that looks like. It's a wider button. This is good if you don't want everything on there, but you want the buttons to stand out a bit more. Maybe you're going to go with 2 or 3 login options. And if you do go with 2 or 3 options, you can select the 2 cells or the 3 cells options here. So I'll take this 3 cells one, drop that in here, and let's add Facebook into the left. Let's add Google to the right, and we'll put the email login on the right. Sorry, I put Google in the center. My mistake. And again, I can select any of these and I get more options. So by selecting, so you can see here I'm hovering over the text in the middle, and then if I click that, I get different options to if I just click just outside of that. So I can change the background color. You can see I can, I can put in the hex code here as well if I want. And I can add a border radius. So if I want to add some curves onto these as well, just to make them look a bit softer, I can do. And if I click on this text here, I can change the font. So let's make that Lato and consistent. I can change the font color in exactly the same way as we've done before. You can add shadow, and you've got all of the other settings here. What's a good idea is just to go around all of these, make them consistent to all of your buttons. You can use multiple colors here as well. They don't all have to be the same. So let's make that Lato as well. Make the radius 30. Personally, I quite like the rounded buttons. I think they're more aesthetically pleasing. And you can see here on the email login button, I've got the form preview once again, and I can edit this box, the connect button here as well, but I can also add in the additional fields, much the same as we saw before. So that's how you add your actual login options. There are some more login options here, as you'll see. So we have a simple login button. That is literally just a connect to the internet button. So we'll capture no data on this. You click that button and you get internet access. Not the most recommended because you're not going to get any data, but some people would like that. And you can also put in a login code form as well. And if you drag that in, you get a padlock here. And once again, you can probably see quite faintly the padlock outline. If I click on that, I get some options. I can change the color of what that padlock looks like. And if I just go outside that again, I can add some background color to that and I can adjust the radius. Now, this is used for the login codes, which we have a separate video on of how you generate those and how you use them. But just whilst we're here, the login codes is on the left-hand side of the dashboard. But have a look in our academy for how to use the login codes, and there's also a video in there too. So quite a few options there. I'm just going to delete that login code button, and I take off these grid lines, and this is what we are left with. And I can adjust that for mobile, tablet, and desktop. And I think we can be pretty happy with that. One thing that you can also add in, if I just go back to this section of options to add, we have YouTube here. So I can drop in a YouTube video, just click and drag that across. It will by default add the social Wi-Fi explainer video, but on the right hand side, you get the options to add a video URL and it will embed your YouTube video. And again, beneath that you can adjust the width of that video as well. All the options that you've seen before that are relevant to the YouTube widget, and you can also set autoplay. And on the devices that will allow us to do that, it will just automatically start playing. And I think that goes through all of the options on the drag and drop creator for the login page. When you're finished, make sure you hit save, because once you leave, if you don't hit save, it's going to remove those. In fact, we will warn you if you do that. So if I just make a change here and try leave, yeah, changes unsaved, would you like to continue? So we will give you a prompt on that. And if we just pop into some of the other pages here, you do get some different options on different pages. So if I remove one or two things here, so this is the pre-login page. If you do not have a login code on here, the skip button will appear at the top. If you click on that, again, more options on the right hand side. You can set a delay for how long somebody must look at this page before they can hit that skip button. So let's say 5 seconds, a lot like YouTube. And you've got all of the other options again as well. There's no login widgets except the login code on this page. But if you want to put in a YouTube video here and you want to make sure people see a certain section of that, you can add a time delay on that skip button. But everything else is exactly the same. The agreements page, you can't edit too much on this. There's nowhere for people to put any data or anything like that. This is purely about getting people to opt in and accept the marketing agreements. So we put in here our default GDPR wording, and you can adjust this. So if I just select this and make the background color a bit darker, so hopefully it stands out a little bit better. I'll take off these grid lines. Let's change this font as well so it reads a bit clearer. Again, hopefully you can see that I'm just selecting an element on the right hand side to get more options, then I make my adjustments on the page itself. But if I want to make some adjustments here, I can just type in there if I really want to. And then if I click on this slider here, this is the slider, by the way, that people opt in, opt out with. You swipe right to opt in, swipe left to opt out. Very Tinder style. We've noticed it gets more opt-ins than the button option. But if you do want to have a button there on the right hand side, we've got this type. It's defaulted as slider, but you can turn that into a button if you would like. You can change the font color, everything that we've gone through before. On the slider, you get these colors as well. So the background color of the slider, for example, just very quickly, you can change the border color of that. So if I make these really bold colors, just so you can see what's changing. And then the icon color, let's go for a green here. So you can see that there are different elements here that you can change if you want to change it from our default. Some very precise things that you can do right here. But that's really the limit of what you can do on this page. You can change the background image if you want, of course. But once you've done the login page, it's probably a good idea to keep things consistent and only adjust this text here if you need, and adjust this slider if you really want to. And finally, on the welcome page, you can add this feedback box. So this is the point at which people have access to the internet. This is what your first time customers will get to. This is what your returning customers will get to as well straight away. If you have auto login enabled, they won't have to go through that entire login process once again. But if I just delete this, I'll delete this one as well, just so we can be clear. You can go and let's add in one cell. And we have review widgets right here. We can drop in this feedback form. And I could select this text. I can make adjustments on the right hand side once again. If I select this main section here, we can have default placeholders. We have error messages, success messages that you can default. And if we select the submit button, again, we can make a lot of adjustments here. We can even change it from submit to something else. So you can drop that in as well. Anything that gets input here and someone hits submit, the message will go into your inbox so you can read that and you can respond to it and use that part of our system as well. Hopefully it's going to help your customer care teams engage with customers better. If I delete that one, let's have a look at what else we have here. We can add images that redirect to other web pages. So this is a really great place to add promotions, redirect people to your events pages on your website, anywhere you want them to go. We can also do this as a button, but in my opinion, I think it works best as an image. So let's take a look at that. Let's add in 2 cells this time, and let's put 2 images side by side. So I can take the URL redirect image widget here, drop that in. I double click that icon that has appeared, and I can either drag and drop it in a new file here, or I can upload one that is already in the repository. And I just have some here that I want to, that I can select straight away. Let's pick another one. And if you select either of these images, you'll see here on the right hand side, we've got the redirection URL. So you just paste in the URL that if somebody clicks on that image, that's where they're going to go to. So hopefully that's going to direct people to the pages that you want them to get to. If I click just outside of these images, so you see here, if I click the image, I have the redirect URL. But if I just go a little bit outside of that, you can see, maybe just see here, there's a little blue line appeared. If I click, I get a lot of options on the right hand side here. And the stuff at the top is what is very interesting. You can determine who will have this row displayed and when. So if I only want these images to be visible to men, I can select that. If I only want this to go to adults, I can. I can also select some details around birthday. I could have it displayed on their birthday or the week before. But what's more is we can also select, well, we only want this to be shown on weekends. So you can play around with this a lot and get images displayed on the right days of the week to the right people on the right visit number. So at a specific visit number or every nth visit, as we call it. So if you want something to be displayed on every 5th visit by that user, you can do that. And if you want these things to start building up, so here we've got men, adult men on Saturday and Sunday, and on their 5th visit, so we're getting very specific here. But now I want something to target the women. The way that I go about doing that is I just add in more images above or below that. So I'll tell you what, this time let's do it as a button. I select the button. I have the redirection URL here. I can change the text. Let's say that's offers. I can change the font. Let's make the font size a bit bigger. round the edges off because I like doing that. You spend a bit of time, you can make it look quite nice. But again, so what I was saying earlier, I've selected the button here, but if I select outside of that, on this main wide one here, I get more options. So let's turn off man. I want this to only go to adult women. And the other one was on weekends, so let's just have this one going on weekdays. And I want this only to be visible on the first visit. You can really build up some good targeting here if you spend a little bit of time and add all of the content that you want, and the system will just do the rest of the work for you. This page is probably the most complex one. There's a lot of things that you can do here because by this point the user has the internet, so we're able to redirect them to other places. So really, that's everything that you need to know about the drag and drop editor in Social Wi-Fi. The main principles are select any element from the center. You're going to get more options on the right hand side. Make those adjustments, and you're just dragging elements from the right hand side, dropping it in the middle of the page and building up your page that way. It is the most complicated part of the Social Wi-Fi service. So if you are having any problems, do get in touch with us. You can contact support@socialwifi.com. Our academy has lots of information on how to make the most of functions like this one. But if in your early days you are struggling with this and finding it frustrating, try and stick with it. It will hopefully become more clear to you the more you use it. Learn what works for you, and hopefully you'll make some really nice login pages. Thanks for watching.